Cultivating community, a civil community in an age of rage. So before we get to our first scripture reading, though, I want to let you know that Matthew is not going to be closed captioning today's sermon, since we've got two graphics and a video, and it's just really difficult for us to switch back and forth between things like that and captioning quickly. So I'm sorry, you're just going to be stuck looking at my ugly mug during this sermon on the screen. All right, that being said, Don has our epistle reading. This is, I think, the third time now it's on the screen, and the kiddos had it. But it's really important. So Don has a reading from James chapter 1, verses 19 through 20.
You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. For your anger does not produce God's righteousness.
Doesn't he have like an announcer's voice? Yeah. You really went into wrong line of work. All right, I'm going to invite you to stand, if you would, for our gospel reading. We've been sitting for a little while for the kids' sermon and get the blood flowing and also show our respect. This is John chapter 13, 1 through 5. Now, before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. Now the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God, and that he was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. And then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. The word of the Lord. Praise to God. You can find your seat. Cultivating civil community begins with the humility to listen, to truly listen to the other. Listening demonstrates respect, builds trust, and respects the image of God in the other person that we talked about in last week's sermon. But humility, as we know, does not come to us easily, does it? Nobody, says the Oak Ridge Boys in their famous song, wants to play rhythm guitar behind Jesus. Everybody wants to be the lead singer in the band. How true is that? In our culture, we often associate humility with weakness, don't we? Humility to many people is for those who can't win, for those who lose in the dog-eat-dog battle for interpersonal survival and superiority. But humility, according to the Scriptures, is the exact opposite. Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hand, says John, and that he had come from God and was going to God, then, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, tied a towel around himself, and washed his disciples' feet. In other words, Jesus, fully aware that all of the created world was his, completely conscious that he had existed before time, absolutely convinced of the fact that he was going to return to the Father in glory, then he humbled himself, took off his robe, got down on his hands and knees, cleansed the dirt that he had created before time began, and off of the feet that he had formed from his disciples while they were still in their mother's womb. Humility for Christians and for Christ isn't a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of strength. If you want to find the weak person in the crowd, just look for the one who feels that he or she has to win every argument and beat their opponents into submission. That is a sure sign of a person who is insecure in themselves. But the humble person can truly listen to others because, like their Lord, they know where they have come from, they know who they are, and they know where they're going in this world. Rooted firmly in Christ, they can put themselves on a level playing field with others and listen to their story. Humility in this way can be a wonderfully liberating practice. Think about it. Humility frees us from the burden of having to prove ourselves. It frees us from the anxiety of having to constantly formulate a defense of our position. It puts us at ease, and it actually protects our ego and our esteem, because engaging in moral disagreements with others is no longer a threat to us. And so, James commands believers to be quick to listen, to be slow to speak, and slow to anger, noting that anger does not accomplish God's righteousness. God's righteousness, rather, is accomplished when we listen carefully, thoughtfully to others. And yet, listening, like humility, is hard. Matthew, can you show us our slide here? I don't know whether you can read that or not. Look at Jesus is here speaking. Okay, everyone, now listen carefully. I don't want to end up with 4 different versions of this. And yet, that is exactly what we have. Listening is hard work, isn't it? It's hard because it involves all of who we are. While I was in Synod school, for instance, I learned about Teng, which is the Chinese word for to hear or to listen. Now, this is the Chinese character for Teng, and it fully captures the essence of listening. The upper left-hand part of the symbol here represents to hear, the ear. Our ears hear the words that the speaker is saying. The lower left part of the symbol represents king, or dominant one, indicating that hearing the words through our ears is the most important part of the listening process. In the upper right-hand portion of the symbol, we see the character for mind. Our mind aids us in understanding the words that the speaker is saying and the message that they contain. Listening then requires focused attention, mindfulness, and effort. Below that is the character for the eye, which allows us to see any non-verbal communication that the speaker might be sending. They tell us that, 70% of all communication is non-verbal. So listening involves our eyes. In the bottom right side is the symbol for the heart. And above that, the almost horizontal line translates into to become one, or simply one. This tells us that if we listen with Teng, with our whole mind, body, soul, and spirit, that we can become one with the speaker. Now, the problem, especially when we deal with heated topics like politics or religion, is that we are often listening simply to win the argument, not, in fact, to become one with the other. We're simply listening in order to point out the flaws in the other person's argument and to fix their flaws or to set the other person's worldview right. And so I'm going to show a brief video clip now that illustrates just how tempting it is for all of us to attempt to point out other people's problems and to fix those problems for them. This is about a 1.5-minute clip.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
No, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. If you would just...
Don't!
Try to see things my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can go on? We can work it out. We can work it out.
It is not about the nail, right? But it illustrates, doesn't it, how we're just dying to point out the flaws in the other person's arguments that seem so doggone obvious to us. For instance, if you are of the more progressive ilk, doesn't it just seem so obvious to you that conservatives just don't understand the value of government regulations and rules, right? Or if you're conservative in your leanings, doesn't it just seem so obvious to you that liberals just don't understand how often the government in fact screws up regulations and rules and makes things so much worse, right? These are examples of the nails that we're just dying to point out in other people's conversations. So here's an alternative. Take a deep breath, like the guy in the video. And really try to hear the other person. Be quick to listen. Be slow to speak and anger. Really try to hear the other person's feelings, to see the person behind what may seem to you to be a well-worn argument, an argument that often derails conversation. There is an older gentleman who every once in a while pops into the St. Paul office. We'll call him Frank. And let's just say that Frank is probably as far from me on most social issues as anybody that I know. A lot of people, quite honestly, would probably write Frank off as a cranky old white guy who just doesn't have much to offer. But Chris and I have learned to listen to Frank. And when we listen to him, we come to realize that Frank's just like everyone else. He's a little scared, a little lonely, and he's trying to do the right thing. And truth be told, when you get to know him, you'll discover that Frank really and truly does do the right thing nearly all of the time. He may have some rather extreme political opinions, but Frank, when his neighbors need him, is always there for them, ready to help out. When you listen, you begin to see that Frank is really a nice man. You see him as a son of God, bearing the image of God. So, we listen. Listening is the beginning of cultivating civil community in an age of rage. It is the foundation. If we do not listen, nothing else matters. Nothing. Now, there may indeed be a time to point out the nail, right? And we're going to talk next week about the courage to speak. But listening is the only way to develop enough trust so that a genuine exchange of ideas and the possibility of compromise is opened up. So we listen, even when it's hard, even when we may be uncomfortable with what other people are saying, even if it's painful for us even to listen to the other person. A few weeks ago, a couple of negative Facebook reviews that were left for tours of southern plantations began to go viral on social media. Perhaps some of you saw some of these reviews. Now, the majority of the reviews left for these southern plantations were quite positive, but a few reviews of the tours were really negative. And here is a sample of one of the negative ones. My husband and I were extremely disappointed in this tour, one 2-star reviewer said. We didn't come to hear a lecture on how white people treated slaves. We came to get the history of southern plantations and get a tour of the house and grounds. The tour guide was so radical about slave treatment that we felt like we were being lectured and bashed about slavery. I mean, my ancestors never owned slaves. I'm by far not a racist. But this was my vacation, and not what we expected. I'll go back to Louisiana and some real plantations that are so much more enjoyable to tour. Take a deep breath. Well, I'm going to forego any larger judgments, and we will simply say that one thing is crystal clear from this review, and that is that it is hard to hear other people's stories, especially when they are full of pain and suffering. But the more pain there is in the story, the more critical it is that we listen, that we truly listen to the other person. Listening in these situations isn't just good interpersonal practice, it is actually an act of justice. It is an act of justice that may in fact lead to a breakthrough of healing. Healing both for the speaker and for the listener. So, here's your homework this week. You didn't know you were going to get homework when you came to church. Here's your homework this week. Practice listening intentionally. Every one of you. Me too. I can pretty well guarantee that sometime this week, God is going to place in your pathway another human being who is going to need a listening ear. It's going to happen. And when it happens, give them your ear. Listen with ting, with your full body, and with all of your senses. Focus upon the other person. Pay attention to their body language, and use good body language yourself. Align yourself to the other. Sit closely to the other person. Turn off the electronics. Suspend your judgment. Humble yourself and listen truly. Hear the other person's story, even if it is painful for you to hear it. Bow down before the other. Hold the other person's story as sacred and see what God will do. Let us pray. Gracious Lord, we are so far from this admonition to be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to anger. We so need your Holy Spirit in our lives to enable us to not make that point that we think is just so doggone important to make. To set aside our agenda and to truly honor the other, especially when the other is coming from a very different place than us. At the end of the day, it's an issue of pride and an issue of humility. Help us, O Lord, to walk in the footsteps of Jesus, your Son, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God as a thing to be grasped after, but rather humbled himself and took the form of a servant, being willing to die even on a cross. Help us to walk in his footsteps and so prove ourselves to be his followers. All to your glory, and all of God's children said together, Amen. I'm going to invite you to stand as you are able.